All right, everyone, we got a little moral panic going on with vaping. Now, first and foremost, I'm aware that vaping is dumb. I chose not to. I just quit tobacco cold turkey. And actually worked. Too bad I became an alcoholic for a long time, in part because of it. But, I stopped smoking, In fact, it's almost 2 years that I haven't had any tobacco products. I'm never going to go back. I mean, I don't even crave it at this point. Tobacco smoke finally, after like 6 months, finally tobacco smoke stopped smelling alluring and started smelling yucky, which is a good thing. I think it's wonderful. So I wouldn't recommend vaping. If you can quit cold turkey, it's best. I wouldn't recommend just a nicotine replacement. That includes like gums and patches. Sit fucking down, take like 3 or 4 days, which are the first 3 or 4 days are the hardest, and get busy. Do whatever it is that you tend to enjoy. Do it. Avoid anything that you can literally fucking skip meals if eating makes you want to smoke. Fucking skip meals. Give your keys away so you can't go down to the store and buy cigarettes. Wait those 3 or 4 days if you can. You can make it beyond that. If you have normal levels of self-control, trust me, your addiction potential is probably lower than mine. You can probably make it. Fucking don't use vaping as a stand-in unless you absolutely have to. If you're like, well, the flesh is weak, but I really want to quit, do what you need to do. Here's what I would say. There have been hundreds now of illnesses, which are various, and I'll get into that, related to vaping across the country now over the last couple of years. This has nothing to do with flavored vaping products. This has to do, well, some people get popcorn lung because of improperly made product, mostly imported. Let's face it. You could stop most of this, by the way, by banning imports from China, but that's something that Trump doesn't want to talk about. I would think that trade war Trump would take aim at the Chinese imports that are actually causing illness. And then cannabis vaping. Somebody can potentially green out if they're sitting there vaping, they're bubbly or whatever, if they're injecting huge amounts of THC into their product and just straight up railing it, hundreds of dollars worth of cannabis in a sitting, they could probably get sick from that. Yeah, they could probably blow a blood vessel or something. Dude, it's just like with marijuana. If you are smoking marijuana in normal amounts that should suffice for anyone, you're not dabbing, you're not extracting the marijuana itself and making a high potency resin and then injecting it into your eyeballs, you're just smoking pot. You're probably not going to get sick from that. And if you think that you're getting sick, you're probably just greening out. You should fucking stop freaking out like a little pussy. But if you're extracting it, if you're dabbing, and I've seen people doing this, I'm like, why? Marijuana was good enough on its own. Can't you calm down? It's like, oh, Coke isn't good enough. We've got to invent crack because we need something that'll fuck you up even faster and harder and make you want to wander around at 3 a.m. naked, dragging mannequins around in the parking lot. What are you talking about, dude? Weed was good enough on its own. By the way, disclaimer, I'm not encouraging you to use marijuana or tobacco or anything like that. I'd probably throw that out there because otherwise YouTube will have a problem with it. Even at that point, all tech has a problem with it. They're like, oh, we've got a lawyer, we'll breathe down our neck maybe. But this is a total moral panic. If you look at the sickness that Trump and these others are alluding to, like the FDA, and the FDA just wants to crack down because the FDA wants to justify its own pitiful existence. Most of it involves imported product, improperly made product, improperly mixed home batches, and things of that nature. Yes, you can get popcorn lung from some of the chemicals that have been used in certain in vaping blends. You shouldn't use them. If you're just vaping flavored water vapor, which in some cases is what people are doing, it's no different than hookah. I remember that like at UVM, there were these kids, they had these hookah, and it wasn't tobacco, it wasn't pot, although a lot of them put that in with the stuff that they were vaping, basically. It's just a water pipe, and you have the charcoal tablet and then the flavor in it, and it makes an interesting vapor, an interesting smoke that's kind of mildly flavored. You have like root beer and vanilla and shit like that. It's not a drug. It's not addictive. They just do it. They find it amusing. They find it relaxing. Now, of course, the cool kids always would put weed in it, and that's the hookah you wanted to be smoking. That was sort of the point. Didn't hurt. As far as I know, there was never a case where anyone had a problem with that. I've never heard of any health complications. But when you begin importing e-cig fillers from third world countries that may be made with gutter oil, or they might have rat poison in them. No fucking shit, you might get sick. You fucking idiots. Why don't you get a legit blend? If you're gonna poison yourself with nicotine, and nicotine is itself a problem, that's what's getting you addicted. Or if you want to smoke weed or whatever, that's fine. You know, 420, blaze it, I guess. Who fucking cares? Make sure you're getting a proper product from within the United States, or you're getting it from some other trustworthy source. You know, your sketchy friend there, you know, the one with the anime pillow and no job, who's like, you know, 50 years old and still hangs around at the high school selling shit to kids. That might not be the best choice for your e-cig blends. Yeah, even if they're cheaper, you might want to spring for that extra 50 cents a unit so you can get it at your local head shop. Maybe it's more legit. By the way, just because it's illegal and marketed as safe blend doesn't mean necessarily it is. Consumer safety applies. Yeah, definitely. You need to apply your basic reason and logic. It's like there were blends marketed as spice alternatives back during the height of that shit. That weren't really alternatives at all. They just used different research chemicals. That was something to be aware of. I remember there was something called Pink Moon that I used to use at the time. I don't even know what chemical was in it. All I knew is it got you high. Or I guess it was getting me, maybe it was just poisoning me. Maybe that's why I've got fucking problems. Who knows? Anyway, use your sense. Use your brain. You probably shouldn't be vaping at all. I mean, it does make you look, honestly, when you vape, you think, wow, man, I'm so cool and hip and trendy. No, it makes you look like a loser, actually. I can understand why people would vape, though, if they think it's a necessity. They're addicted to nicotine. They don't want to smoke. They vape. Their lungs feel better, at least. They're like, hey, I can maybe weed myself off. Some of them are like, well, I like the nicotine, and at least I'm not smoking. Okay, that's fine. You could get popcorn lung. That is a risk. You could get an improperly made batch that's, oh, whoops, we added an extra zero. You're actually getting, like, you know, an entire pack of Marlboros worth each hit you're taking. You could hurt yourself. It is possible. It's just not likely, considering the number of people vaping. Tens of millions of them, I'm sure, are vaping at least sometimes, and millions regularly. And you've got a few hundred cases, and you consider that a public health crisis? No, ban imports. Ban Chinese imports. That's where the problem is. Ban Chinese imports and ban the chemicals that are responsible for giving people popcorn lung, and half of these cases wouldn't exist. Problem solved. And as far as people greening out, maybe they jump off a cliff because they smoked 1,000 doses of cannabis, their problem. Government cannot nanny everybody. You can't cure stupidity. More government regulation. So you're saying 1 million people vape. One of them vapes way too much weed and kills themselves. And of course, that'll be blamed on marijuana and vaping as opposed to the individual or some underlying mental health problem, which they might have. Maybe they shouldn't have been using cannabinoids. Maybe they got dissociative personality disorder and it just makes them whacked out. You can't necessarily prevent that 1 in a million people from doing so. They're going to find some other way to off themselves because they're dumb. There are dumb people in society. I hate to say it, but the government can't save everyone. Benevolent Big Brother can't keep everybody from dying or suffering or living a miserable existence. So the rest of us should not have to be inconvenienced for that tiny minority. We can show basic mercy, and we have a good health system, and we can try to save them when they do overdose on something because they're being, you know, fucked up. That being said, this kind of policy, a blanket ban on flavored products, isn't even going to work. Plus, people just make their own flavorants. Unfortunately, this is going to lead to a black market that's more sketchy. Then you're going to have gang members making e-cig products. Which would you rather? Would you rather have some high-tech lab making the e-cig juice, or would you rather it be a cheap import that's coming through some cartel at the southern border that might be cut with sawdust or something? Is that what you want? Because that's what you're going to get if the FDA gets involved. Trust me. It's like all of these research chemicals that kept poisoning people because weed is illegal. It's because weed was a top scheduled drug. The FDA kept it fully illegal. People sought an alternative that was roughly similar. And a lot of them died. And some of them got permanently psychologically fucked up. And some people like me, we ended up, you know, overdosing and going into the hospital for days at a time. All because of the FDA. It's their goddamn fault. So no, I don't believe in banning flavored e-cig products. People just switch to the mint and menthol, and if you ban them, they'll switch to the regular, make their own flavorants maybe, or it'll just be tobacco flavored, and then we'll be right, but maybe some of them will go back to smoking Marlboros and be like, oh, fuck it, it just tastes better. Fuck it, completely. They won't even try to quit. Vaping has led to a catastrophic decrease in the number of cigarette smokers in this country. Wonderful! The free market is fixing addiction in a way that government never could. What are you pussies? You're just afraid because the free market's doing better than you. So the government came in to tax and regulate everything, and now they want to hyper-regulate it. So it'll become a black market. But what'll end up happening is that Jimmy will mix his own blends, probably get popcorn lung. And Sally and Timothist over there, they'll get some cheap Chinese import and they'll be smoking rat poison. Isn't that fucking wonderful? Yeah, perfect. That's about all. Peace out.